Intro to Reporting with SQL Server Reporting Services. Alright, so another one of my favorite technologies here, and this one I'm really excited about because if SQL Server was lacking anything in the past, it was a reporting platform. And now, and Microsoft obviously knew that, so what they did is they built a true next-generation reporting platform here. This isn't just a simple reporting tool that we use and create reports with, but this is a full-fledged reporting platform that we can use to create, entire systems off of. And I got to tell you, I've been using it for quite some time now. It actually came out in SQL Server 2000, and it wasn't really fully there, but it was there just so Microsoft, showed people that it's serious about creating a reporting platform. Now in SQL Server 2005, it's full-fledged here, and I tell you, I've built actually a few commercial systems around it already, and it is the coolest reporting platform out there. I even would go as far as to say it blows away Crystal Reports and Oracle reporting and all the reporting packages out there today. And I'm going to show you some of the cool things that we can do with it here. Before we get into it though, let's jump into an outline quickly. First off, we're going to take a big look here at an introduction to SSRS, SQL Server Reporting Services. Just get you familiar with, again, some of the features of it, what it can do for us, the architecture of it, all the different components that make up reporting services. We'll then jump right into it here. We'll learn how to create here and deploy SQL Server Reporting Services using BIDS, the Business Intelligence Development Studio. We'll start off and we'll create our own project from scratch. We'll build a report from scratch, and I'll just show you the whole process of creating a report. And then we'll deploy that same report to a reporting services instance, and also show you some of the really cool samples that Microsoft put together just to showcase some of the power behind SQL Server Reporting Services and some of the really cool features that we can do when building these reports. At the end here, we'll take a big look at how to manage these reports and also manage SQL Server Reporting Services. Take you through the configuration tool. Again, there's two different ways to manage reports using the web interface, or we can use SQL Server Management Studio, and I'll kind of show you both ways of how to do so. Alright, so let's kick things off here with an introduction to SSRS, and I just want to take a brief overview of the technology and all the things we can do with it. Again, as I mentioned here, it's a full-fledged reporting platform, and it is server-based, which basically means that it's going to rely heavily on a SQL Server instance and an IIS instance to function correctly. Also here, it's got built-in support for creating, managing, rendering, and viewing reports, and we'll take a look at what all of this entails. One thing I want to mention here, rendering reports. This is really cool. SQL Server, when we build these reports, we don't actually build them in a specific format. We just build them using Report Designer, deploy them in a kind of SQL Server's own format, and then when users request these reports, they request a format. So they'd say, I want this report in Excel or PDF or HTML or as an image, and the list goes on. And SQL Server has built-in support for all of those formats. We just simply, the users choose what format they want it in. SQL Server does its little magic and renders a report in that format. So it's got built-in support for many, many, many different formats. We don't have to worry about that. All that grunt work is taken care of for us. Also, there's many ways to view these reports and access these reports, which I'll talk about here in the architecture. And where it really shines, Reporting Services shines in this one right here. It's powerful and flexible next-generation reporting platform. And really what that means here is it's a wide-open platform. We can write our own rendering extensions if we need to. We can write what are called our own data processing extensions. And it's just a wide-open platform that integrates very well with the .NET framework. And you can see that's kind of an ongoing theme here amongst all of these latest and greatest Microsoft technologies, is they're making them wide open. So if there's something you can't do, well, find a developer or become a developer and get familiar with .NET, and you can do it. The possibilities are endless. And of course, the trick to making all of this work is that it's easy. It's easy to do everything. It's easy to create reports, manage reports, and of course access these reports as well. And it's easy to even write your own custom extensions within reporting services. It's all very, very easy technology to work with, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing for everyone, that this is easy technology to work with. And you'll see it when we get into bids here and we start building these reports, that there's not a lot to it, but there's enough that it's very powerful and very flexible that we can build really simple reports, and we can build very interactive reports as well. Now let's just take a brief look here at the architecture. Basically how this works, us, the developers and administrators of the world, we're going to be using Business Intelligence Development Studio here, BIDS, to create these reports. The reports, we use a designer within Business Intelligence to again, build our reports. And basically what the reports are made out of are what's called RDL, the Report Definition Language, which is really just XML. It's XML syntax, and it's just the tags have special meaning. So we build the reports using a designer, we build them graphically, but underneath the hood it's just generating this RDL. Also here, once we deploy the reports, we actually deploy them through IIS. IIS is a big part of reporting services. there's actually what's called the Reporting Services Web Service. And this web service is really neat stuff because not only does things like this use it, Business Intelligence uses it to deploy reports, and the report manager is what we use to manage the reports, and also users. We can set up users to use this report manager to access the reports. But basically this web service just sits in IIS, and anybody can use it. So if you have a developer out there that wants to write a custom application around these reports, then you can just tap right into this web service and pull the reports out, request them in any format, so on and so forth. So it's very, very wide open in the fact that anybody can access your reports over the internet as long as they have access to this web service. And developers can, again, create custom applications around that web service. And this is, again, where the users sit. Users can access reporting, all the reports, either through the report manager, which we can tweak and set up and customize for users and their security and roles built right around this web interface, or again, developers can create custom apps to access them as well. Now, as far as reporting services itself is concerned, it's really just a collection of Windows services. We have one Windows service that deals with the report processing and rendering, another Windows service that deals with scheduling and delivery, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but basically it's just a collection of Windows services. And also when you create your reporting services instance, you're really just creating a database, a reporting service, a couple of databases that uses SQL's reporting services uses to store all of the instance data and all the information relating to the reporting services instance. Now, let me just go through a couple of features here. Reporting services, as I mentioned, it can do so much. It's a very feature-rich product. One of the big things it can do is ad hoc reporting. We can create what are called data models, and then and a data model is really just a view. And then we can allow our users to use that data model to build their own custom reports. There's a cool little application built right into reporting services called the Report Builder. And it's what's called a click once application, or a WinForm over the web, which is just essentially a Windows application that gets streamed over a web server to your users. And your users then can use this application, and we expose these data views and these data models through that application. Users use that application to build their own ad hoc reports based on our data model, and it's very slick stuff. And again, they just simply save their reports in their own kind of My Reports area in reporting services, and boom, they can view them at will. So very huge part of that is ad hoc reporting. Also, this whole scheduling and delivery processing, this is really cool stuff because users, when they're running these reports in custom apps, a majority of the time, they're just getting real-time reports all the time, right? Well, this side of it really allows users to specify, say, I want this report with these parameters filled in to deliver to me at this date and time. And SQL Server can create what are called history snapshots and store them. So what we have now is we can have the ability for users to get real-time reports and also historical reports, where these reports are just constantly stored in reporting services, and eventually, they have an entire history of all the reports. And just good stuff, good stuff. Historical data, real-time data, reporting services can handle both. Also, as far as reports are concerned, we can do some pretty nifty things. We can build, as I mentioned, interactive reporting, where we can have the users right in the report sort by a column. Click on a column and have it sort right there in the report. We can do drill down or drill through reports. We can do expandable collapsible reports where users can expand and collapse regions and where they only want to see their totals and such. Really, really cool stuff here. Also, we can build parameterized reports, cross-tab reports, otherwise known as matrix reports, and then you can just build your simple regular old tabular reports too. We have all kinds of different charting components in here to work with, and also just freeform reports. So again, simple reports to really advanced reports to very interactive reporting. We can do it all. And the key here, as I mentioned, it's easy to do. And I'm going to show you just how easy it is to use and build these reports, because we're right now going to jump into Business Intelligence Development Studio and build ourselves a report. So we'll build a report from scratch. We'll deploy it into reporting services. We'll view it as a user would view it. And then we'll do some other things too. I want to show you some really, really nifty reports and just show off kind of the power of reporting services. And I'll also show you different ways that we can manage reporting services. So let's jump right into Business Intelligence Development Studio here and learn how to build a report. So I'm going to head down to the Start button, up to Programs, over to SQL Server 2005, and we'll head right into Business Intelligence Development Studio here. And we're going to create a brand new project here, so I'll click on Create Project. As soon as this opens up here, we're going to click on the Business Intelligence Projects node, and this time we're going to choose Report Server Project. So let's just go ahead and give this a name. How about AW Reports for AdventureWorks Reports here? We'll just leave the default path into My Projects inside of our Visual Studio directory here. Click OK. This is going to actually create a solution. Within it, it's going to have one project called AW Reports, And this is how it looks. I'm going to go ahead and close out of our start page here. But this is basically what we get. We just have a shared data sources node and a reports node. Not a lot to a project. Very, very simple. It's all simplified and again, just easy to use. So let's go ahead and add a report in here. And to add a new report, you just right-click on the report node. And if you choose this one, add new report, this is actually going to take you through the wizard. I'm going to show you how to do it manually. I'm just not a big fan of wizards these days because you never quite know exactly what that wizard's doing. And if something goes wrong, I want to know that I did it, not the wizard. So if we right-click on reports again here and go to add, and then down here choose new item, this will bring up our little dialog box here that asks us, what do you want to add? And here, instead of choosing report wizard, let's just choose report. And this will give us a blank report to work with. And let's just call this, how about product listings here? We're going to create a little product listing report out of the AdventureWorks database. And we'll choose add. And this will just give us a blank report, nothing on it. And here's what the report designer looks like. And basically what we need to do here is we have three tabs. We have the data tab where we define the data we're going to use for the report. We have the layout tab, which is going to, of course, be our actual report and our report design that we're going to use to drag objects on here and just kind of build our report. And then we have a preview button right in here where we can actually preview the report itself. So you can see, of course, there's nothing on here. But this is cool. These are all we need. A very, very simplified view. There's not a lot to it. You're not connected to any reporting services here. This is another cool thing. Reporting services itself doesn't really come into play until we're ready to deploy the report and put it inside of that repository over there. So the first thing we need to do is define our data set. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up SQL Server Management Studio and just show you I built a little stored procedure that we're going to use as our data source to get this data. So let's head down to the Start button, up to Programs, over to SQL Server 2005, and right down to Management Studio here. And I'm going to connect our Object Explorer right into our production database. We'll drop down our databases, drop down AdventureWorks, drop down Programmability into Stored Procedures. And we're just going to scroll down here until we see the one that I put together, USP Get Products by Category Report. I'm going to right-click on it and choose Modify here just so we can see the definition. And why don't I go ahead and maximize our screen here so we can see this a little bit too. So what this stored procedure does is it allows, we're going to have three parameters here, a category, a color, and a list price. You actually don't have to supply any parameters. And just to show you here, if I highlight our stored procedure and hit execute, there we go. We got all of our products here, their categories, just some general basic information, all the things you want to know about a product if you were to see it in a catalog, such as the color, the list price, size, weight, category that it's in, and then a thumbnail photo. We'll get a nice photo going inside of our report of the product. And that's it. So again, you can supply all these. If you want to supply these parameters, you can, which I'll show you how to do within the report. But just simply bringing back this basic information and then using the parameters as well to filter that data if users were to choose so. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to copy this stored procedure here because we're going to use it, just the name of it. And a couple things to do. To create a data source here, there's one thing you can do. You can create what's called a shared data source. And if you create a shared data source, that means all of your products, or excuse me, all of your reports, you can just simply choose this data source. If you create a data source in here, you choose new data set, and then you choose a data source here, you can create one on the fly. It'll only be attached to this report. So I'm going to cancel here. We're actually going to create our own data source by right-clicking and choosing Add New Data Source. Create kind of a shared data source here. So again, any reports that we make from here on out, we can just point to this data source. We'll call this AW Production, the AdventureWorks Production Database. I'll click on Edit here, and we're going to create ourselves a connection string. How about SQL Nugget, sql2005 prod is our server. Drop down the database here and just choose AdventureWorks. Test it. Looks good. So there we go. That's all there is. Now we have a data source. You also choose your credentials here, how you want to access the database with the data source. And we're just going to use integrated security. And that's it. Now we have a global data source here that we can use throughout our project within all of our reports. Now comes our report itself. And if we want to create a data set, and a data set, you can have many, many data sets in here. Basically, we're just going to use one data set here. We're going to tie it into a table and create kind of a tabular report that's grouped by category. So to create a new data set, very simple. Drop this down, choose New Data Set. Give your data set a name. How about we just call this Products, our Products data set. The command type, the type of command we're issuing to the database to grab this data. If you choose text, you can just put your query right into here. We're going to use a stored procedure. So in that case, our query string is going to be the name of the stored procedure. All there is to it. We'll click OK, and now we have a data set. And the cool thing about this is, let me go ahead and hide our Solution Explorer and our property one here so you can see this. But you can actually test the stored procedure right in here to make sure you're getting the data you want. So I'll hit Run here, and look at here are all our parameters. Let me just null all these out here so we can get everything back. or you can type in your values in there too. You hit OK, boom, there's all the data coming back from our stored procedures. So this is kind of cool that you can test it out right in the designer here. And if you need to edit anything, if you go back in here at the build button, you can edit anything. And just by doing that, by clicking OK before, it actually goes out and grabs all the fields that it returns here, and then also all the parameters that it's expecting. So very, very easy stuff here to get a data set in here. But that's the first step. Get your data set in here. Boom, we're all set. Now we can head into the layout and start building our report. So let's just get our report set up here. If you click in this little square area here and then right-click on it, you can include a page header. Also, the same exact toolbar is up here, by the way, in the report. You don't actually have to right-click on there. And then we'll choose to include a page footer as well. And we'll set up our page header with our title and such, and just some runtime information such as when the report ran, who ran it. We'll set up our page footer here with page X of Y, just standard report stuff. Also here, the first thing let's set up here is let's get the core of our report set up. And if you click on the toolbox button over here, you can see here are all the objects that you can drag onto report. Chart, sub-report, images. Here's our matrix or cross-tab report. Here's going to be one of the most popular is your table. Let's just go ahead and grab our table object there, click on it, and drag it onto our report. And there we go. Now what you can do is we want to attach this table to our data set. We can just simply go into properties over here, go into the data set name, and choose our products data set. Look at that. Now we can choose our detail columns here, go into properties, and in the value we'll have all of our field names. That's one way to do it. An even easier way to do it is if you go over here to the data sets tab. Look at this. There's our data set. Now we can graphically start dragging our columns right into our table. Look at that. It automatically puts the name of the field as the header. So that's pretty slick stuff. Let's get some other ones in here. How about the list price we'll get in here? Instead of adding color in here as a field, what I want to do is we're going to have the actual color show up as a cell value. So let's just go ahead and kind of size our table appropriately here. Get this set up. Drag it. We're going to make it kind of big. Get the name. Get the list price. If you want to add more columns into here, you can just right-click here, choose Insert Column to the right, Insert Column to the right. We're going to get a few of them in here. I'm just going to add a few more here. Insert column to the right and insert column to the right. There we are. Now, one other thing we're going to do here, I'm actually going to remove our table footer. So if you right-click on any of these, you can see you have your options in here. We're just going to remove the table footer. And we're going to add a grouping because we want to group by category here. So if we right-click in here and choose Insert Group, we're just going to name this our category grouping. And we want to group by category here. So we'll just choose our category field. And we'll see, yeah, let's just include the group header and the group footer here, might as well. Choose OK. And there we go. So now at the top here, we're going to have our actual, all of our field names across the top here. But we're going to make room for the category because we're going to put the category right here. So let's just move all these over. And it's easy to move it, just kind of like working with an Excel spreadsheet here. You just click on the cell, hold your click down, and drag it on over. There we go. And now we're going to put the category as our grouped item here. So if we go into data set, we'll drag category right in there and check it out. So now we're going to make a nice looking group report here. Now let's also add color in here. Only again, I want to do something special with color here. Rather than just have the actual word, the name of the color on here, we're going to add an expression here as the background color. And if you drop this down, all of these properties are going to have this expression on it. And basically what this allows us to do, if you click on it, we have an expression builder. And this is a really nice little thing because basically it's got all of our all the things relating to our report, all of our report objects. So you have constants here. We could set this to a specific color. Your globals, and we'll use these when we set up again some of the different report execution stuff that we want to put on here. You have all your parameters in here if you want to use them, all of your fields in here, and then of course the data sets as well. And then you have common operators in here that you can use. So it's just basically a little expression builder, and then a bunch of common functions. And we'll use one of these here coming up shortly too when we get our subtotal on there. Basically what we want to do though is we want to choose a field. We're going to say we want the background color of that field to be the actual whatever the color is. So we're just going to do something like this. You need to have an equal sign in front. Equals fields colors that value. So whatever the actual color is in the database, the name color, it's going to come over and it's going to be the actual background color of the cell. So that's kind of neat, a nifty little thing to do. Let's also get in here. Let's get the size in here. And you can see it just to show you another way to do this here. Drop down the value, choose the size. There we are. And I'll finish the rest of these up here. How about the weight? There we go. And the last one is going to be a photo, and this one actually can't do. You actually can't drag the thumbnail photo in here because if we do this, I'm just going to hit preview really quick here just to show you what this looks like. Hit view report. Oh, actually we have all of our parameters are right now mandatory, so, and I'm going to go back in here and show you how to edit this, but let me just go ahead and do that. List price, how about 1,000? Color, how about black? Hit view report. So you can see here, just to show you, look at that, error. So that doesn't really work for images. So what you have to do here is we're going to delete this out of here, and we're going to go on over to our toolbox, grab an image, and drag it right into there. And now we get a little wizard. And let's go through the wizard here, choose next. What type of image are we going to grab, or what's the source of our image here? We're going to say it's out of the database. Choose next, dataset, name, thumbnail, photo, the type. How about a GIF here, GIF file, hit next. That's it. Look at that. Now we have a photo. Now if we do the same thing, category, list price, 1,000 or less, color, how about silver this time, hit view, check it out. Now we've got images. Pretty cool stuff. So that's how we kind of have our base table set up here. There's some really neat things you can do here as well, such as formatting. I'm going to highlight this whole row up here. Go over to properties. Let's make the border color here. How about we make it silver? And if you choose the default, it's going to change it for all the borders. Let's make the border style solid, so it actually has a border. And let's make it, how about 1.5 on the width. Also here, let's make the background color. Scroll down here, we'll make the background color, how about a steel blue? And let's make the, let's change the fore color here, the actual text color as well. So if you go right into color, that's going to be the fore color. Let's change this to, how about white smoke there, a little dimmed out white. And also the font. Let's make the font a little bigger. How about 12-point font? And let's bold it. There we go. So you can see you can really start to format this. Let's also change the name of this to photo. And there you go. So we have the start here to a nice looking data set. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean this up a little bit more here, and then we'll add our subtotal onto it and do a little bit more. So I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back here. I cleaned it up a little bit. I just kind of put some nice formatting on it, made it look pretty. And now what we can do is finish up the task here. So let's add a subtotal on here for our category. So we just want to get a count of the total products in this category. If we right click on here and choose expression, we can kind of build it here. And I'm going to go ahead and just paste in the code that I put together. Basically, we're just going to say the value of this subtotal here is going to equal the actual words category total. And then we'll put a space in here to kind of put that space in there. And then we're going to use a count rows aggregate function. If you come down here to common functions and choose aggregate, you can see you have a count rows, and it returns a count of rows within the specified scope. Our scope is going to be our category grouping, so it's just basically going to count them up per category, and then it's going to say category total, and then followed by the number, which is that total. We just say OK, and then I already have it nice and italicized for us, so we can kind of tell that this is our category in italics, and this is our subtotal down here in italics. And I also like to color code it as well, so it looks nice and pretty. So the next thing we're going to do here, let's go ahead and get our report title on here. So if you go into the toolbox here and choose text box, let's go ahead and drag a nice big text box up here. There we go. How about we call this our products by category. There we go. We'll make this lowercase. And if you click on this, go into properties. Let's make the font nice and big here. How about we make it, how's 20 look? That looks pretty good. We'll bold it. No, let's make it a little less than that so it doesn't look so big. There we go. And then you can do some other things here, such as vertically align it. We can center it, and how about we just do a regular old text align here and center it. There we go. We'll shrink it up and put it in the middle. Looks good. So that's it. Simple as that to make a title like this. You could also put images on here, static images. Very easy to do so. You just go up to the report, choose embed images. Click new image, just browse for an image, and then you can drag this image on here, and then just slap that image, associate that image right in there as an embedded image, and that's another way to do it. Rather than what we did, we're doing, this is one of the more complex images, storing it right in the data row itself and bringing it from the database. But nonetheless, that's even easy to do, as you saw. Let's get some other text boxes on here. Just make one more text box. We'll call this the kind of the report. Executed at. We'll do an executed at and an executed by here, so it'll look something like this. Executed at, and then it'll have the time of the execution. But to do this, we can use what's called a global variable. So we'll right click on here and choose expression. We'll come in here and let's just go ahead and do the same thing we did before with our actual subtotal there. We'll do executed at space and hit globals and do execution time. There we go. Simple as that. And also here, let's make this font a little bit smaller here. And another way to mess with the font, if you didn't want to go in the properties, you could right click on here and choose properties. And right in here you have a font. So we'll go ahead and we'll just make this a little bit smaller than usual here. And looks good. Let's go ahead and copy this and paste it so you can copy and paste these objects all around, make them look good. Let's go ahead and how about executed at and executed by. Let's make these a little bigger as well here. And if we right click here and choose expression, we're just going to change this executed by to another global value here, another global variable, and this is going to be the user ID. So the individual, the network ID of the user that's running the report. Alright, I'll add a couple of other little features on here, clean it up one more time, and then we'll be good to go. We'll mess with the parameters and take a look at how our report looks. Alright, so I cleaned it up for the last time here. You can see I just basically added a footer here and just made all these line up nice and pretty. And here's what we have. If I go ahead, I'm just going to show you the expression here for our page. Just simply says page and another globals here, page number. And then we're just concatenating the word of, and then end, and then again, total pages on here. So that'll give us our page 1 of 20 or so on and so forth. And then here I just put static text in here that just says AdventureWorks. And here we go. Now we have a pretty little report that we built in a couple of minutes. Not too bad, huh? The last thing I want to show you here about this is going to be our parameters. So if we go to preview here, you can see we have to fill in these parameters. And we want it so that users don't have to fill in parameters, or we want to make it easy for them if they do decide to fill in parameters. So let's go back over to our report here. And into the report parameters, we'll click on this little area, right click on it, choose report parameters. Here's what you can do. We got, again, the name. This is going to be the name. This has to match up to the stored procedure name of the parameter. The data type, it automatically comes over here based on again, the stored procedure data type. The prompt, this is going to be how the user sees it if they use, again, if they use the report manager in the web-based version to access this reports. This is what they're kind of the friendly version of the not-so-friendly version of the name up here. So let's just call this category of the product. There we go. And now your defaults here should match the defaults in your stored procedure. So if we look on our stored procedure and we see that this is a wildcard % for category, then we should do that. So we'll hit non-queried here and do the same thing. There we go, %. You can also choose here to allow null value or not. We'll go ahead and bypass that, and that just basically means it'll use the default if they don't supply a value. Down here to color, let's go ahead and just say the color of the product. This one we will allow no values because if we look on our stored procedure, you can see we're allowing nulls. And then the same thing for list price here. So we'll just go down to list price, choose allow null, and then we'll just say the how about the maximum price of the product. There we go. Another thing I want to show here is available values. And this is a really, really neat thing because basically what we could do here is we could say we want to supply the categories ourselves, in which case we could choose from query, and then we could add another data set in here, and we would just basically have that data set just grab a list of categories. And then we could assign that to this parameter, and basically that'll give the users a drop-down box rather than a free-form text box where they would just choose a category rather than type one in. So very, very, very easy to do too. Again, you just make another data set and then choose the field out of that data set that you want the values to come in for the user. And you can also have a label field if you want a friendly label surrounding that value if you have unfriendly values such as integers or GUIDs or things like that. So very, very handy feature. I use this all the time. It's very, very cool stuff. But to keep this simple here, we'll just do it just like that. We'll hit OK. Now let's head over to preview and take a look at this. And you can see right away, since we have everything is pretty much assigned, it doesn't need any information from us, it's going to run the report. Here's how it looks. You can see we have our products by category here, our bikes, all the bikes in here. Looks pretty nice and formatted pretty. And you can see 24 pages here, page 1 of 24. AdventureWorks, and you can just flip through them right inside of here. Flip through all of your, all the different categories and everything within this report. So pretty cool stuff. Another nice thing here, you can hit the export button. Check it out. We can export this as a PDF file. So it's going to go ahead and export all this data. It's going to prompt us with where do we want to save it. We'll just go ahead and save it on the desktop, and I'll minimize this and open up our product listings.pdf and check it out. Here's how it looks like in a PDF. Pretty slick. Pretty good looking too. Not too bad, huh? So that's it. See how easy it is to build a report here. Piece of cake. And we'll go ahead and delete that. Head back into our Business Intelligence Development Studio here. And again, you can print them right from here, pretty much do anything, but that's how you build reports. And there we go. So you can see it just ran through it all there. It started deploying to our SQL Nugget report server instance, deployed the data source, deployed the report, and everything worked. Everything is successful. So now what we can do is let's go ahead and take a look at our report inside of reporting services here. Let's go ahead and minimize first our Visual Studio environment here. And there's a couple of ways. Again, you can use Report Manager to do this, or first thing I want to show you here is using SQL Server Management Studio to do. So if we go ahead and get into Management Studio here, I'm just going to close out of everything within here. You'll see these buttons on the toolbar just like we used for our integration services. Well, if you look at the middle one, we have reporting services. If you click on it, what we need to do here is register a reporting services instance. So we'll go ahead and choose new, server registration. This one is going to be, again, SQL Nugget / sql2005 prod. We'll hit test here. This will go ahead and ensure that there is a reporting instance there. It sure is. We'll hit OK, save, and now let's go ahead and connect to it. And there we go. And check it out. So this is kind of how it looks. You have a home. Home is the base directory. And there we go. There's our Adventure Works folder that it automatically created for us. And there's our report, our product listings report. And then underneath here we have just some stuff that is objects relating to this report, data sources. You can see AW production is tied to it, even though this is our kind of our shared data source, but this is just showing that it's tied to it. And then again, here's our snapshots if you decide you want to implement any sort of snapshot history, and then subscriptions for the whole delivery service as well in there. But that's pretty much it. You can also right-click on the report itself, and you can go to the properties of the report, and you can do all kinds of stuff. You can even view the report here. Properties, right-click, choose properties here, and this will just kind of give us all the information relating to the report, the parameters. You can see you can pretty much manage all of the properties relating to report right inside of here. Here's the report history stuff I was talking about, permissions, linked reports, so on and so forth. So pretty cool that we can manage all of our reports and the structure of our reporting services instance right in SQL Server Management Studio. Now the other way to view reports here is using the Report Manager. And if you go into an Internet Explorer instance here, and we're just going to type in http://SQL Nugget / reports, and then again our instance here $SQL2005 prod. So instead of report server, just say reports here, and then followed by the instance name. When we hit enter, it's going to take us right into the Report Manager. And now this Report Manager is good for a couple of things. Again, you can use this to manage reports the exact same way as we did over here in our SQL Server Management Studio, or you can really set this up as kind of the web interface for users to use to run reports. So you can really tweak and streamline this, and you know, there's a whole security side to this, set of permissions, tie users into report roles, so on and so forth. And then again, allow users to use this to run their reports and export their reports. It's a very, very nice reporting tool for them to do so, and it takes a little bit to get in there, but basically here's what it looks. I'm going to go ahead and choose Show Details here. It's just, here's your folder structure, here's our Adventure Works, here's our actual report. Again, you can hit Edit here, and just like the properties inside of SQL Server Management Studio, you have all the same properties. Or you can just click on the report here, and this is what users can do as well. They can just come in here and they can see all their reports. They can click on them and check it out. Report is being generated here. Let's go ahead and show that. And it's just basically a nice little reporting tool here where they have all of their parameters above and then the actual report down here below. So a very, very simple tool to use here to manage and also give users access to reports. And of course the other way for users to access reports then is using custom applications which use the web service to pull these reports back into an application. There we go. It's still generating here, going across to our SQL Nugget machine and grabbing all that data, and look at that. There it is. All 24 pages worth streamed right back into our browser. You can see I hid the parameters here, but you can also come in here. Let's go ahead and type in bikes. We just want to see bikes here that are $1,000 or less. And hit view again. It's going to generate it. And this one should go a lot faster this time because there's not a lot of data. And we'll see that. Maybe not. Nope, see, that wasn't too bad. There it is. There's our report. And again, from here, you can do the same thing. Select a format. We can choose Acrobat here, or even we can choose Excel. Hit export. And this will go ahead and export it into an Excel spreadsheet. So pretty cool stuff. This reporting service is, again, very easy to use. You can see we created this slick little product in no time flat, and it does a really good job, by the way, at exporting it to Excel too, especially when you deal with drill down reports and expandable collapsible reports. It'll actually put the little tree view for expanding and collapsing right in here, so you can expand and collapse your nodes as cells. So very, very cool stuff. Any format you can think of pretty much you can use, and even build your own formats as well. So once again, we can use this to manage reports and also to give users access to this specific tool here, or we can use SQL Server Management Studio really to manage reports within here as well. Now, another thing I want to show you here is I want to show you really the power of reporting services and some of the cool things that you can do with it, and kind of some of the advanced reporting that you can do with it. So we're going to go back into our project here. And Microsoft, again, has included some really nice samples with SQL Server 2005. If you choose to install them, you got samples for pretty much everything. I'm going to show you the reporting samples that they give us. So we're going to go into Solution Explorer here, and we're just going to import some existing reports. So let's right-click on the Reports node here and go to the Add Existing Item. And also here, you can import reports from Microsoft Access. It does a pretty good job of converting them to a reporting services report. That's an option there if you have a lot of Access reports out there. But to add our samples in here, let's go to Add Existing Item. And you can see here inside of our samples directory, if you install the samples in SQL Server, you'll get all kinds of really good samples and just good practical ways to do things. But basically, we're going through the report samples, reporting services, report samples. There's even samples showing custom applications tapping into the web service. So if you have the time, definitely take a look at that. It's worth seeing how simple it is to use that web service to, again, stream these reports back into an application. But again, we're going to go into report samples, AdventureWorks report samples. I'm just going to grab a couple here. Company sales, how about product line sales, and the territory drill down. This one is a nice little matrix drill down, or otherwise known as an expandable collapsible report. And then this product sales and territory sales work together. This is kind of the parent report, and this is the sub-report of some really neat, so it uses charting and everything, really cool report. Very interactive report here that I'm going to show you. So we'll click Add. That'll add those into our project here. And the first thing we're going to take a look at here, let's look at, how about the company sales, our kind of our matrix drill down report. And the first thing we need to do is go into the data, because exactly, our data source is not found. So we need to change the data source on this one to our data source that we made here. We'll click OK. And now let's head to the layout. You can see very simple report, not a lot to it. If we go to preview here, it's going to go ahead and generate the report. And this is a cool report, and I'm telling you, this is really easy stuff to do too. But basically, your basic old crosstab report, right, where you have your values on the left, your kind of your metrics on the right. And the cool thing about this one is it collapses here, and now we can get even greater details on each quarter within the year. And same on this side, all the quarters within the year. And you can see if you undo it, it'll just roll it all up there into the totals. Same thing, this is broken out by categories, so we can see categories by quarters, by year. And again, this is actually a really easy report to create. There's not a lot to throw in this report together. So that's one cool little sample to look at. We'll go ahead and go back into Solution Explorer here. The next cool sample I want to show you, again, this is a very interactive report here, product line sales. Let's open this guy up. Let's head into the data, change our data source to our production data source. And we have to do the same thing for our child report here, our territory sales drill down. So let's head into here, go into the data, and change our data source to our production data source. And now let's head back to our parent report and take a look at how this works. We'll head into the layout tab here. All right, let's go through some of the components here on this report. And again, this is a very cool report, very simple report too, but very powerful because it's so interactive. This actually is going to give the top 5 employees of the company and their sales, and then kind of a visual using a graph here of the sales numbers. Same down here with the top stores. It's going to give us the top stores in the company, their sales figures, and then just kind of a visual on how that data looks in a graph. But basically how this works here, we can sort by any column in here. You can click on any bar in here, or you can click on the name, and that'll take us into a linked report and give us even more detail about that employee. And just to show you how that works, if we right-click on this employee and choose Properties and go to Navigation, check it out. It says Jump to Report, our Employee Sales Summary Report. Click on Parameters, and you just pre-fill in the parameters, which are going to get passed in based on this individual and also the month and the year of the individual that they're clicking on in that sales summary. And then it'll open that report and give us that information. So again, a very powerful report here. Let's go ahead and hit Preview. And also, this report uses, as I was speaking of earlier, those available values on the parameters. Basically, they just set up those parameters to run off of a data set, and it brings back the available values. So users don't have to type it in. They just simply select a value. Same here at the subcategory. This is actually an available values with checkboxes on, another way to do it. Pretty cool there. And then just dates. Dates automatically have this control built into it. So a very, very intuitive and very easy to use parameter, choosing values for parameter features here in reporting services. I love it. Can't get enough of it. Here's the report. Check it out. Scroll down here. You can choose an employee. Click on an employee to sort it ascending. We can sort it descending, sort sales ascending, descending. Yeah, very interactive. And look at this. You can click on any bar. See how we get the hand logo there? Or cursor, I should say. You can click on any bar. That'll take us into the details. Before we do that, though, head on down to stores. Same thing on stores. We can sort it by our store name or by the sales. You can see our top stores here broken out in a chart. And here's the footer down at the bottom. Let's go ahead and click on one of these bars. How about we see Michael Blyce here. Let's take a look at his sales. And look at this. This went into a sub-report, which gives us even more details on this individual employee. We have a nice little plotted bar chart here, or a line chart I should say there. We have a bar chart below, and then we have all of the order summary by components in here for this employee. So another simple report, but very powerful. Gives a lot of good visuals on the data, and then the actual raw data itself below. And you can see, since we're in a sub-report here, you can actually choose any month to see. You can choose the employee and the year right in here as well. So I like to show this report off to people when they want to see examples of reporting services, because it's a very simple report to build, but it also shows a lot of the power and components of reporting services at the report level. A lot of things you can do here make it a very, very interactive report. So cool stuff. All right, the last thing I want to show you here is just configuring an existing reporting services instance. So if we head down to the Start button and up to Programs, over to SQL Server 2005, right into Configuration Tools, you'll see the Reporting Services Configuration node here. And what this will do is basically what you need to do is connect to an instance. So just choose SQL Nugget and then hit Find, and that'll fill up your instances down here. You can see I have 2 instances over on our SQL Nugget machine, and we're just going to choose our production instance and hit Connect. And this is going to head on over there and connect to our reporting instance. And just some things that it shows you here is the status of it, the instance name, if it's running, and this is the service, so you can stop all the services associated with it. Just gives you a little legend down here on what that is. This is kind of the IIS settings of the report server. You can see this is where it's stored under, the website, and you can choose a different area to apply it to. You can use SSL for connecting to the report server. Same with the report manager, works the exact same way. Windows Service Identity, what the Windows services run under, what the web service runs under, the ASP.NET Service account, and then your database setup, which is just going to have basically your database names here, the server name, the database name, collation, credentials, all that kind of stuff. So just basically your standard setup things. You can encrypt the actual report server, which is a good idea, especially if you're building sensitive reports. And you can also set up email, and this is good. This is good to do if, again, you're going to use the email capabilities, the scheduling and delivery capabilities. You may want to set up the email, but let's go ahead and phoebenugget.cbnuggets.com. Actually, this is the sender's address up here. You can do something like this. We can do reports at adventureworks.com. And then you hit apply, and that'll go ahead and configure it and store it. And there you go. Apply sender email. It was successful. And now this has a check next to it. And you can also configure the execution account. And this is, again, just relating around scheduling. Because when you schedule, a report to get created, who's it going to execute under? So you can specify an execution account for the unattended operations of automating those reports and sending them out through the email. So very easy to configure your server here. And these are all the configuration areas of configuring an instance within reporting services. All right, so in this CBT Nugget, we took a big look at SQL Server reporting services. We took kind of just a little piece of everything in reporting services. We started off with an introduction, got you familiar with what reporting services is. It's a very robust, feature-rich platform that's very extensible as well within SQL Server 2005. I took you through a brief look at the architecture there, kind of a bird's eye view of what the architecture looks like in reporting services. And then we jumped right into it. We created a solution, report project, and then of course a report from scratch, and made it run off of a stored procedure. We took a look pretty much at everything within a report, creating a data source, creating an actual report, creating a table, and then just formatting it and all that. So we took kind of a big look at creating that report, and then we deployed that report and took a look at how to manage that report, both using SQL Server Management Studio, and also how you can manage it using the web interface, the report manager, and also you can use that report manager, as I mentioned, to kind of streamline and tweak that so your users could use that to run the reports. And then at the end here, I kind of walked you through some samples, some really cool samples, just to show off the power of what reporting services can do as far as interactive reporting goes. And at the very end here, I just took you through how to configure an existing reporting services instance. So I hope this has been informative for you, and I thank you for viewing.